to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. You guys hear that? That's the sound of 10,000 lawnmowers.
That's true.
Revving up at the exact same time.
It's a Saturday show, boys.
Oh!
Lawns aren't ready for this. July 11th.
The death of millions of blades of grass.
All happening right now.
I guess they don't actually die. They're just getting a little,
They're getting a
trim
trim.
ski.
A little haircut.
That's
Yeah.
a good point. It doesn't hurt, right?
The
Do you think
grass?
it hurts?
I don't know.
I'm going to say I don't think it hurts.
No.
I'm going to go on record and say
Okay.
I think it does.
Okay.
Yeah, well. We're not botanists. We're fantasy football analysts, and we welcome you into the show. We have a divisional breakdown episode today getting into the AFC East. We have covered the North and the South on the previous two episodes. So if you want breakdowns of those
This better be
teams,
the East.
This is the East.
Okay.
You wanted to see North, South, East, West?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, if you're going to go in that order.
This was important to you?
Yes.
Well, we are covering the AFC East, Mike. You can be comfortable with that. Get into some mailbag if we have extra time. A reminder, the Ultimate Draft Kit with the Draft Analyzer available now at ultimatedraftkit.com. We are adding a mock draft tool to the UDK this year. That should be live within the next couple of weeks on mobile, and then we'll expand to the web. But this is very exciting. It's an opportunity for you to jump in there, run as many mock drafts as you want, invite your friends who have the UDK to go mock draft with you, get a feel for where players are going, and over time you'll be able to, that's why you mock, to try different strategies out, to see how it feels. Somebody had the quick question, or it was in the mailbag maybe on the Footcast, of where do you like to draft this year? Do you like to draft at the top, at the turn? We all shared our opinions, but that's based on mock drafting.
It's the top.
It's not always, though.
No, not every year.
But that's our opinion right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So the mock draft tool coming to the Ultimate Draft Kit that already has all of our player projections, all of our rankings, our sleepers, breakouts, busts, values, and the Draft Analyzer, and a lot more.
100
Ultimate
player profile videos.
Yeah, 100-plus player profile videos.
You better watch them.
UltimateDraftKit.com.
Takes a lot of time.
That's true. You can follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/fantasyfootballers, on X at the FF Ballers. Papa Josh, you're on the microphone, right?
I am.
Do you know how many people are in the free Fantasy Footballers Discord right now?
I do indeed. Give me 1 second to switch over
if
there.
you
And the number
can't
is
know it.
66,800.
All right, that's not bad.
Yeah, he pulled that one out.
Yeah, I think he saved it. 66,000 fantasy football players.
I don't think you know what that phrase means.
Mike is going to take issue with it?
He doesn't.
If you're like, hey, do you know this? And you're like, yeah, let me look it up real quick.
It's like,
That's not.
no,
He did it so
be-
fast, though, that it did feel like
No.
like it was on the tip of his tongue.
No, it was not.
BallersDiscord.com. It's a free community of fantasy football players that you can join. 66,000 strong, Papa Josh?
Don't forget the 800.
66,800. You could be 801.
Oh, Jay, did you hear where we're almost at?
It's gonna,
70?
It's going to be
70?
so nice.
All right, we're going to jump in right away here on the AFC East breakdown, and we'll kick it off with a couple of teams that have a lot of fantasy value for all of us fantasy football players.
Let's get divisional.
I mean, if I seem slightly off, Al, who are you laughing back there? I mean, we are fresh off the golf course. I mean, we are odorous.
Guys,
I am covered in a mix of sunscreen and dirt.
My hands feel like disgusting. I haven't even we came in, we didn't even we're just here and ready to go.
We thought it would go faster. Mike wanted to get this
not a we. Some of us were here grinding. Rise and grind.
Mike didn't golf with us. I don't know why. But
what was the temperature?
It was disgusting
nice
degrees
for the first hole.
It was disgusting degrees outside.
It was nice.
No, it was.
Baloney.
No. look, I can't take heat.
Relative.
No, it was actually nice out this morning, and then it turned into hellfire.
Just saying.
So it was
We
nice.
we
for
did
a-
leave the house at like 5:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
So
it was pretty nice at that
It
point.
was
before the
nice
sun
for a
came up.
period of
An hour.
15 minutes.
Yeah, not that long. But anyways, we're just dehydrated. That's all I'm saying. Let's kick it off. Our breakdowns, we're looking at general overviews for these teams, offseason changes, coaches, players, rookies, how their offenses could function this year. Some of our takes on the win totals. We predict every division. A good prediction for the AFC East would be the Bills or the Patriots, based on the last 17 years. Patriots won every single year from 2009 to 2019. Bills won the last 5, and then last year the Patriots took it back.
Even this last year. So we were looking at our predictions of how we did last year, this year, and immediately we looked because we all picked the Bills to win last
Right.
year, and it wasn't highlighted as a win. And we were like, wait, what?
We're like, yeah, the Bills, they won.
Oh, we got that one. Oh no,
No, we didn't.
the Super Bowl losers. The Patriots. Sorry, I mean
Could have called them like
visitors. Super Bowl. Well,
participants.
yeah, okay,
Runner-ups.
yeah.
This was the division with the largest point differential gap between second and third place teams. So the Bills were plus 116, the Dolphins were minus 77 and in third place.
Oh, don't stop there. You should read the Jets one.
Where were the Jets at?
Minus 203. Oh,
The haves
boy.
and the have-nots. But we'll start with the Patriots.
Oh.
Patriots are going to be very, very interesting to project this year for fantasy. They were looking at a 9.5 game win total last year from Vegas. They went 7-3 in one-score games. They were the healthiest team in the NFL, so they had the fewest adjusted games lost. Their projected win total this year. You want to hear this?
Mm-hmm.
They won 14 games. They added A.J. Brown. Vegas has them at 9.5 wins. That is...
It makes sense. I mean, you can say it's disrespectful, but it is mathematical. Last year, their schedule was cake. It was so easy that 14 wins was not. They're not like an average 14-win team. They went to the Super Bowl, so you're like, well, yes, they are.
Yeah.
But if
Spencer Rattler, Cam Moore, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Tyler Huntley, Brady Cook, Quinn Ewers.
yeah.
Those were quarterbacks that they faced and defeated last year.
And good on them. Not everyone.
supposed to do
You're
that.
supposed to win those games. So I don't want to do anything disrespectful here, but the schedule is going to get a lot harder. There's also the Super Bowl hangover for teams that lose the Super Bowl. It is tough the next season. So those two things combined with the fact that this is a young team. Okay, so it was a magical season. You add that with all the offseason drama, Vrabel and all that. Like this is going to be a difficult, really test your metal season, I think, for the Patriots.
Well, they start the year, just so you understand, the first 6 weeks, they go on the road against Seattle to start the year. That's probably the hardest matchup you could have in week 1. Then they play Pittsburgh at home. Then they go on the road 2 more weeks at Jacksonville, at Buffalo. So the first 4 weeks of the year, they're underdogs in 3 games. So, yeah, they'll be put to the test immediately with a much more difficult start to the year. Then they get to play the Raiders and Jets at home, and that will maybe medicate the bad situation.
Yeah.
But the first question for fantasy, worries about Drake May, worries about regression for Drake May. This was a quarterback that was number 1 in completion percentage, number 1 in yards per attempt, number 1 in passer rating. Right now, he's at the 4th highest pass success rate of any quarterback through the first 2 years, behind Mahomes, Purdy, Dan Marino. Do you think he regresses for fantasy purposes? You'd love to say that A.J. Brown, Romeo Doubs, those additions should ensure that he doesn't, but it's certainly a risk when you have different defenses you're playing.
Yeah, a more difficult schedule. I think Drake May proved, he was the MVP runner-up. He proved he's elite. I think he's very, very good. Will he regress? And, last year he was the quarterback 3 in fantasy. I think some of that happened to be gifted with some injuries. Obviously, Lamar was injured, Burrow was injured. So, I feel like he was more like a quarterback 5, and I think that's in the range of outcomes here. A.J. Brown coming is a huge deal for Drake May. He did not really have an alpha to throw to last year. He made it work. I think year 2 for TreVeyon Henderson out of the backfield as well. Ramondre is really good catching the ball. But I do think that they will transition a little bit more to TreVeyon in the passing game, and that will be more explosive. So I think more of the same for Drake May, but the same won't feel as good this year as it did last year because other players won't be injured.
Sometimes I wonder when an alpha comes in here that is as demanding, vocal as A.J. Brown. Sometimes I wonder if it serves the team or it doesn't when you had –
I think it does early.
Well, you had an offense that was very the ball could go anywhere, right? It was Booty, it was Hooper, and it was Hunter Henry and Diggs, and it was spread around a lot. But it also means you have a great touchdown opportunity on a regular basis with A.J. Brown. I think mostly my opinion, projecting it in fantasy, I've pretty much played it like Drake May's going to roll it back, like he's going to run it back with very similar output from a fantasy perspective. They are a team, we've talked a lot about this, they're a great defense, and Vrabel's going to have a great defense. They were number 2 in points per game, number 8 in yards per game. Something to keep in mind in some of those matchups. But Mike, where did you project Drake May to finish?
I still have him being a very solid fantasy player, but we know historically that he had a 6.3 touchdown percentage. Like when you're up that high, it generally comes down by like a point or so, or if not more. So I don't think he has a flawless path to being a superstar for fantasy purposes, but he looks like the real deal. Like the film stuff, his
if
numbers
you locked
are great.
in Jaden Daniels or Drake May and you had to lock him in for the whole year?
Man, if I had to lock in all year, probably Jaden. But Jaden's a higher ceiling but higher or lower floor to me of things, we saw it, the bottom could fall out. Like, do you guys make anything of competition-wise? You get to the playoffs, theoretically you're playing the best of the best. Drake May completed 58% of his passes in the playoffs. He threw 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Like, those aren't prolific numbers. He took 21 sacks. Like,
well, they played
playoffs were not perfect for Drake May.
I'm trying to remember all the matchups. I know they played Denver. I know they played Seattle.
Did they play Houston?
Remind me.
Yeah, they beat the crap out of Houston. Isn't that the Stroud game? Kyle?
Well, someone beat the crap out of Houston and was the Stroud game. That's for sure. I mean, they went out.
I'm just trying to think about what would explain away some of that. And if you played 3 of the best 4 defenses in football, might have something to do with it.
But that's the point of
for sure,
of bringing that up.
Chargers, Houston, Denver, Seattle. Yeah,
I'm bringing it up of you're like, okay, well, if they're playing a more difficult schedule, you're going to have fewer cupcake games.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that people should be factoring in more, or are we just, whatever, wheels up, Drake May looks great, and the addition of A.J. Brown can that eliminate some of the concerns with the schedule?
Yeah, I think if I had a choice, I'd probably go with
It's gonna be May.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I've always hated that drop, so I tried to use it for my own purposes. It didn't feel right.
That's just that's a late April. That's a late April drop.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Drake May. I think the backfield will be. I think Mike would agree. It's going to be frustrating.
The backfield. I love hearing Jason being bullish on Trevo. I think he is a sensational player. I think that should he be given the keys, great things will happen for the team. Great things will happen for fantasy football. But as we know, running back decisions that's who's on the field, and the coach puts the players on the field, and Vrabel, last year where you had the Henderson breakout happen, where you're getting all the production, it's incredible. And the fact that Ramondre goes right back in, and Ramondre was good. Like, this is not a, I have to tell the truth of Ramondre's season. He was a solid player for the Patriots, and he was solid for fantasy football. The fact that they went back to him immediately, just that worries me for the ADP gap of, I'm not saying Henderson can't pay off at a 4th-round price, but the risk you're taking of him in the 4th and Ramondre in the 7th, when Ramondre is probably the starter for the first quarter of the season at least.
I don't know how everyone want to break the pendulum down a little bit differently, but it's not like guaranteed that Henderson has a better fantasy year than Ramondre, and that says,
I agree.
That says something for the fantasy decision making of that. The upside is tremendous with TreVeyon, but there's no guarantee he's the better running back in this backfield. Production wise,
that's definitely true. There is in the range of outcomes, if they, neither guy gets injured, Ramondre could be the goal line back, could still be on the field more in passing situations and be the better pick.
They do like him.
Yeah, for sure. And he's under contract for at least, he's under contract, I think, 3 more years, probably 2 on the team. However, I am very bullish on Henderson. He is the more explosive player. They spent the 38th pick on him, right? Then he goes out in his rookie season, gets 1,100 total yards and 10 touchdowns as a rookie. If you look at what happened on the snaps, so he started so slow. I mean, this was all Ramondre. They brought this rookie along slow. Then an injury forced him on the field, and he dominated. He dominated during that stretch. Ramondre comes back, and what we remember now is what happened in the playoffs, where Ramondre took over. But the rest of the season, Ramondre was getting 11 opportunities a game when Ramondre and Trevo were there, to TreVeyon Henderson's 14 a game. Now, how do you explain that in the playoffs? We just talked about this. They played really good, unbelievable defenses where the offense was controlled and more game management. This was a smart decision by Vrabel. They got to the Super Bowl. But I think that it will flip. Last year on the total, this 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns that we saw from TreVeyon, that was on 46% of the snaps. I think it's going to be 60-40 the other way.
I don't agree with that at all.
And that's absolutely fine. You don't have to agree with that.
That's the bet.
But if it is that, if it's 60-40 Trevo will pay off on the 4th.
Yes, that I agree with.
And so you just have to decide for yourself, do you think Ramondre will be the leader of this timeshare? If so, Trevo's a terrible pick.
AJ
barring
Brown,
an injury.
AJ Brown has arrived. We'll talk about the wide receiver room. I think that AJ Brown is in the realm of players that can finish at number 1 at the position. We always ask that question, like, what's the true ceiling of the wide receiver position? Our consensus rank on AJ Brown is number 9 overall. But I would answer that question if you asked me, like, could he finish at 1? I would say yes.
I would say
yes too.
I think it's going to be a brilliant year for him. It might be isolated to one New England year this year, but I think he is a steal in drafts.
He
honestly
will demand the ball. He always has. Last year, people were down on him, down on the Eagles' offense. Jalen Hurts wasn't that good at passing the ball. A.J. Brown missed a couple of games. He was the wide receiver 10. Now you go to a team that has a pass rate way higher than the Eagles. They paid to get him. He is the guy. He's got a better quarterback situation throwing the ball. Drake May is a better passer than Jalen Hurts. I am all in on A.J. Brown. I'm completely with you. I think that where he's going right now in drafts is a great spot to take him.
Second receiving target on this team, is it one of the other wide receivers or is it Hunter Henry?
No, it's Dobbs. Long live the reign of Romeo Dobbs being the Patriots wide receiver 1. We had a
couple weeks.
We had a sweet couple months there, but lost in the AJ Brown stuff is that they gave Romeo Dobbs a good contract, and Romeo Dobbs is. I'm not saying he's an elite player, but he is a very capable wide receiver. Like, he was a stabilizer in Green Bay for years.
You think 8 weeks into the year he'll be on fantasy rosters?
I do.
Okay.
That's why I want to bring him up. He's barely being drafted as a wide receiver 4, and he's going to an MVP caliber quarterback that will have a ton of statistics. There's going to be Like, there's enough production to go to have it be a second player. Does Dobbs get enough consolidated targets? Like, is he up in the low 20s of the target share? Because if he is, then he's going to help rosters. Maybe he's not a league-winning type of player, but there's very, very few of those guys each and every year. So you need auxiliary players who can come in and be your wide receiver 3 or your flex play, and I think that Romeo Dobbs is in contention to be able to do something like that.
Stephon Diggs was 21% of the targets. He's gone. Antonio Gibson's gone, and Austin Hooper is gone. I will just bring up Hunter Henry as I think the two most boring, sneaky tight ends you could play with the last pick of your draft are Hunter Henry and Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
And Henry it blew my mind to look. He was the tight end 6 on the year with 768 yards and 7 touchdowns. Just worth saying. I mean, Henry, he had a big role in the red zone. A.J. Brown will come in and be more of a role in the red zone.
In the red zone.
But Henry can give you a game here or there in the right matchup when the opponent defense is bad against tight ends.
Well, in the red zone, he saw the first read 40% of the time.
He's a good player. He's just solid.
Yeah,
he's just solid.
He's a good vet.
He's a touchdown threat where a lot of these late tight ends are they're not going to have production and they won't have touchdowns either.
I do think that the addition of A.J. Brown and Dobbs makes me less bullish. Like, he has always, for the last several years, been one of those, I'm at the last round of my draft, I need a tight end. I've always been fine taking Hunter Henry. He's probably not going to make that cut. I'd rather have Dallas Goedert in that situation. Ironically, A.J. Brown leaves one team, goes to the other. I'll take the one where the targets are vacated.
We'll take a break and we'll jump into the Bills. No, they didn't win the division, but they did go 12-5 and have a successful year once again. The Vegas win total last year was 11.5. They won 12 games, 11.5. They won 12 games. They were 5-3 in one-score games. They only had 5 games against teams with a winning record. So to bring that up, you got to be fair with every team in this division.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very healthy on the offensive side of the ball. Not a lot of injuries there. Very injured on the defensive side of the ball. Their Vegas projected win total has gone down from 11.5 to 10.5 going into this year. 3rd in points per game, 3rd in yards per game. The big move this offseason, a big change at head coach. Joe Brady, well, maybe not a big change, but a change, right?
It's still a
McDermott
change.
is gone. Culture has changed.
No more 9/11 analogies in the locker room.
My
Oh,
gosh.
man. That was real. It's funny because it became a
I
meme
wasn't
and it
going
was
to bring it up, but
it
that's
was
all I think
joked
about.
but
for
it's
McDermott.
like it actually happened.
Yeah.
Well, Joe Brady's taken over.
Whoops.
Pete Carmichael's the OC, but Joe Brady was the OC, and we'll have his fingerprints all over that's good for fantasy for us.
It is.
When you look at, the two main players on Buffalo that fantasy players care about, James Cook, Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the identity of the team, and when the head coach is the former offensive coordinator, you know that there's the stability, the expectation that this is going to be that run-first team, that James Cook is going to have a huge role once again. The headline-making move, DJ Moore acquired via trade. No more Brandon Cooks, Gabe Davis, Curtis Samuel on the the rotating offensive side of the football at wide receiver, but they also drafted Skylar Bell in the 4th round, worth mentioning. Are you expecting more of the same from this offense? And how early is too early for Josh Allen in a fantasy draft?
I think Josh Allen is a good pick, period. So if you take him, if you want to take him at the 2-3 turn, that's earlier than I would want to take him. That's earlier than he usually goes. I don't think it's a bad pick because Josh Allen has been so solid. I saw some statistics on the percentage of teams that make the playoffs with Josh Allen over the last several years. And it is an enormous number. And he's been drafted all over the place. A couple years ago, he was drafted even higher. He was a 2nd-round pick. And people who drafted him made the playoffs. When he was a 3rd-round pick, people who drafted him, they made the playoffs. It's like one of those we're late-round quarterback. We want the value. That's all great, and that's a good strategy as well. But Josh Allen's so solid, I just don't think it's ever a bad pick to draft a guy that's going to score a ton of fantasy points in a game where we're trying to score fantasy points. It's pretty good strategy.
Is James Cook a guaranteed 1st-round pick for you? He said basically double birds to the TD regression.
Well, I mean, he could say that, but We got it.
We did?
The touchdown regression was massive. 2 years ago, he had 207 carries and 16 rushing touchdowns. He had 12 rushing touchdowns this year on 309 carries.
So the touchdown percentage.
Yeah, we got it.
We
guys.
smashed it.
We got it.
But he managed to find a way through.
But then he got 100 more carries.
He's one of the true
And he's
one of the true workhorses, and needs to be thought of that way in the
Yes.
same breath as the great ones out there.
He
the
is
Bijans and CMCs. I think
the thought is just hitting me now of because we were talking about last year the conversation. There was a conversation of like, okay, well, James Cook, 200 carries, like 237 the year before, and then they give him the huge contract, and you're like, this only makes sense if you give him a bunch more volume, which he did, and he thrived. And I'm bringing this of just a quick callback of like the Alec Pierce discussion of when you give a player that level of contract, you better use that player or you look real dumb. And they did. And James Cook came through. And he's an easy, safe, high upside, high floor pick. So
11 games of 80-plus rushing yards was the most in the NFL. Barely caught the football, but didn't need to.
I mean, you felt it last year. If you look across your matchup and you saw James Cook on the other side, you went, oh, no.
Well, he had breakaway runs, too. It was like he was very explosive. That combo was great. DJ Moore gets reunited with Joe Brady, who was his offensive coordinator in Carolina. That's one thing. Like, I'm going to try to talk more positively about
good.
DJ Moore.
I want to try and because we've been
make the case for both sides.
We've been pretty negative on DJ Moore because look, the case for that is it's very easy. He's 29, year 8 in the NFL.
He was bad last year.
He's changing teams at a late point into his career. That's not generally something that works out, but he is going back to a coach who he's played for. And Joe Brady in March, guys, let's see if you agree with this quote. Joe Brady said, 5 years, it's a long time, but the player I saw on the 2025 tape wasn't any different. I didn't see any drop-off.
Then he wasn't watching much.
Well,
Okay.
I think I understand it because the DJ Moore the last couple of years in Chicago has been a DJ Moore that makes a just out of nowhere outstanding great play. Just wasn't a focal point of the offense. When he was with Joe Brady in Carolina, 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns. If they want to make him that, I guess I'm just trying to say, like, if you could give a 3-sentence summary of the bull case for DJ Moore, because at this point,
That's also easy.
In the 6th round,
yeah, the
you're
high
starting
upside,
to. You're not paying the Diggs arrives in Buffalo price.
the genuine.
Well, that was actually super cheap too.
yeah,
because we didn't like
Stephon
Josh
Diggs.
Allen.
Stephon Diggs was like a 6th-round pick.
Yes, it is a very similar situation. The question is whether or not DJ Moore still got it. If he does, the range of outcomes, like we said with A.J. Brown, like what is the best case scenario? The best case scenario is he is their alpha target. He has 150 targets. If he has 150 targets, then you're talking about a guy who, from Josh Allen, he's a wide receiver 1. I don't think if he's up near 30% target share, he's falling to to a wide receiver 2. So he is not a terrible pick if you want to take a bet on the Bills offense. I won't be doing that. I think I just have too much of odds on him not being necessary for this offense, having his good games, being involved. But I mean, we're going back multiple years now where Josh Allen's been great, the offense has been great, and they didn't really need one wide receiver to carry the load.
I agree. We've been
that.
excited about Shakir, Coleman, Cooks, Curtis Samuel before, like Amari Cooper when he arrived.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have been excited about a bunch of names that we think could become the next Diggs.
But
because
no one was good enough. So
Right.
that's the question.
And I think most of us would say we don't know if DJ Moore has that enough.
I mean, it's just like the Chiefs. No one's been good enough.
Dalton Kincaid, add him to the list, by the way, of players with high expectations that have never become a focal point.
For DJ Moore, this was I recall talking about the postmortem, looking back on Stephon Diggs, who I was wrong the Stephon Diggs year because I was so out on Josh Allen making the best turnaround a quarterback in the NFL has ever seen. Got that one wrong. But looking back at it, the risk was baked into the ADP. There's other guys who are in the 6th round so there is an opportunity cost. There's players in that area that I really love. But it's like if you're in on DJ Moore at all, he's wide receiver 32, and he finished as the wide receiver 33 last year. So it's all just inherently in there that you're not. It's not like AJ Brown's a 2nd-round pick,
Right. Yeah, you don't have to pay a lot.
For the player who he has to be the number 1 wide receiver.
I feel like we had the nicest conversation we've definitely ever had about DJ Moore this offseason, which was nice of us.
What you gotta
So they're favored.
You gotta look at where could you be wrong in your analysis.
They're favored in 5 of their first 6 games, but I will say there's some tough defensive matchups in there. They start against Houston in Houston. They play New England in week 4. They play against the Rams and that defense in Los Angeles in week 5. So I think it's a pretty level start to the year, even though they're favored in 5 of 6. One last follow-up there, Dalton Kincaid.
Yes, I didn't want you to move on.
Yeah, I'm not
going to
move on without
Kincaid.
talking about
I think
him.
it's an important conversation for this year because he is very affordable. I think he's going to be in double-digit rounds. No one really wants him. He's just been viewed mostly as a bust for his career, even though he was very exciting coming in. He's just dealt with injuries. His lingering, it was PCL, I think, that he really struggled with all last year.
Oblique, hamstring,
it all came from this knee injury. He kept getting multiple opinions whether he needs surgery or not. Last year, he finished as the tight end 15, okay? He played 27% of the Bills' snaps, offensive snaps. I mean, he was really not on the field. Even in the games that he played, it was only 38% of snaps. I just did a little research report on his current health, and he took multiple doctor visits. All of them said he didn't need surgery, so he rehabbed.
Are these the same doctors from last year?
No. What I was saying earlier was actually from this offseason. The most recent reports is talking from him that he feels the best he's felt in forever. He hasn't even thought about it. The knee is no longer an issue for him right now. Not that it can't come up again, but it's great because all last year it was an issue for him every single game the whole year. That's why his snaps were so limited. On a yards per route run basis, he was the best. He led all tight ends. So if he's actually healthy and what we've seen the last couple of years,
sleeper candidate.
Yeah, a little sleeper candidate tight end. He'll, if you're in the end of your draft and you don't have one, I would, in double digits, round 11, I'd pull the trigger.
All right, let's take a break and we'll come back with the Dolphins. All right, Foot Clan, whether you are on the go or at home, T-Mobile, well, they're built to keep you connected wherever you're scouting your fantasy team. And that on-the-go part, that is important. With America's best network, you'll be connected to the latest news and player projections, so when you're on the clock, you can draft a winning team. I can think of so many situations where that element of being connected while you're on the go is fundamental to fantasy football success. I'm in the midst of multiple leagues right now where I am responding to trade offers. We are massaging the trade offer. We want to make sure that I'm the one that gets the player, not another player manager in our league. So trade offers when you're on the go, all the news that's breaking so you don't make a mistake. And my favorite thing, maybe I'll mention it. Look, you're sitting and you have a quiet moment somewhere out and about. You want to jump in the UDK. We got the player profiles. You can watch all of those in there with T-Mobile. You can jump in on the player projections and our stat projections and all the 130,000 words of content. Again, T-Mobile making that easy to do. Every bit of news. Things are changing all the time, new player contracts, all that good stuff. So from off-season to game day, every play is better with T-Mobile. What you got to do is visit T-Mobile.com/network. Fastest is based on analysis by Ookla of speed test intelligence data of national speed score results for the second half of 2025. The best mobile network in the U.S. is based on analysis by Ookla of speed test intelligence data second half of 2025. All right, guys, I know you've been dying to talk about the Dolphins. Their projected win total last year was 8.5. They went 7-10. Their projected win total this year is an abysmal 4.5. When you look at the players subtracted from this team, it is just reading the offense to you. Player subtractions: Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, Westbrook-Ikhine, Darren Waller. All quarterbacks and pass catchers.
Let's take Mike McDaniel as well.
And your head coach, your offensive genius of a head coach.
Yeah. The offense was nuked. They are playing for 2027. Obviously, they brought in
Hafley.
Yep, they brought in
Slowick.
they brought in the Packers, all entirely like the Packers backup guys.
Yeah.
They became the new starters here, including their backup quarterback.
Their player additions list includes Jalen Tolbert, Tutu Atwell, and Terrace Marshall Jr., all three of which
Lockjaw
are considered mediocre at best. They added Caleb Douglas in the draft in the 3rd round, Chris Bell in the 3rd round. It's hard to have high expectations of those guys, but if you want, like, what you have in Tolbert, Atwell, and Terrace Marshall,
which is nothing,
and
is that what you
probably
mean?
and Malik Washington, and so you look at this ensemble of options and you say, well, there's just nobody I would pick. Maybe one of them will help Malik be relevant, but I can't pick one.
I had Kyle look into, because they are an NFL team. They will throw.
Yeah, they have to play 4 quarters.
They have to play 4 quarters
Yep.
every game. So the fact that right now no one is being drafted a wide receiver, in the top 36, it's like, well, one of them has to emerge, right? So I had him look at teams that were healthy, because every year you've got, maybe the best wide receiver on the team was wide receiver 60 because, the healthiest wide receiver played 8 games. There's plenty of examples in history where
there are.
a healthy
team has no
wide receiver
top
core
36.
has absolutely nothing of relevance, and this is a very predictable one of those. If you want to take a shot on one of their rookies, Caleb Douglas or Chris Bell, to have a surprise breakout, okay, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, it's just a tough sell on the offensive side of the football outside of Devon Achane, which, on one hand, you're like, well, this offense is going to struggle. They're not projected to win a lot of games. That's not good for running backs.
Well, the offense struggled. They didn't win a bunch of games, and he was there last week.
That's it, But this is they're set up for Warren Sharp's second toughest schedule of 2026.
Mhm.
They're coming off a year where I just deleted their 5 best offensive players, and they were 25th in yards per game last year. It's hard to make a strong case for them winning a lot of football games. Hopefully they can win some fantasy football games with some spot starts from Malik Willis, who is a very mobile quarterback. That is a superpower. I think it's a QB stash late in drafts. You can look to Green Bay, the scramble rate, 14.5%. He ran for 41, 73, and 60 yards in his 3 starts. That's incredible. I mean, if you do that over the course of a year, it's big numbers. But it is going to feel a little bit like Malik and Achane against the world, I think, at least in my view.
So where are you at with Achane? Because he is an early 2nd-round pick. So you're talking, this is a foundation of your roster. You can't miss. You don't want to miss on your 2nd-round pick. It puts you in a huge hole. He's a great player. Last year, 40% of his production came from receiving.
And that's not what historically Malik has done.
We have a different quarterback, which, mobile quarterbacks, you lose a couple targets here and there. You also don't have it. When you have a quarterback like Tua, that you're going to get a bunch of checkdowns. It's like the Phillip Rivers. You have certain quarterbacks who this is what they do. It's part of their MO.
I don't have fear.
Okay.
You're fine. I have them ranked very high, and part of it is go look at the game log last year. They had games go sideways all over the place. This was the most consistent running back in football. You know what his consistency ranking is?
100%.
100%. So every game he played.
What's funny about that is our metric for running back is you want to hit 10.5 fantasy points a game. He did that on 100% of his games. His lowest score all year was 11.3. I mean, he was basically 15 points a game every single game, unfathomably consistent last year.
There's just some things that he possesses, in my opinion, that make him more invulnerable to bad games. One was the receiving work, yes. Maybe that is a variable that is going to be a problem. 2, it's the big plays. It's the long runs, the 49-yard touchdown, the 46-yard touchdown, the 59-yard touchdown, the 48-yard touchdown, 39, 29, 23. When you can make a big play, I mean, they lost games 33-8. He's the running back 10 in that game. I mean, 45-20. He's the running back 15. I know that it's not going to stay this good, but I just believe in the player's talent.
Well, and then the other part of that conversation is
I don't like Atlanta's offense, but I like Bijan.
we win over the wide receivers. Like I think Malik Washington is at least interesting as a complete and total dart throw at the very, very end of late drafts. But last year, you lose Tyreek, but you had Waddle for the majority of the season. You have a true number one wide receiver that the teams have to worry about. If they have no one at the pass catching position that you have to worry about, and you can completely focus on HN.
I definitely worry about HN.
Okay.
I think the talent is totally something you can bet on. The opportunity is something you can bet on. When those two things come together, I'm not going to say that he's going to be a bust, but where he is going in drafts feels like he's going ahead of Genty and Hampton in most ADP right now. I would prefer those other
I would
guys
take him over
personally.
those two guys.
Right, and so
Yeah.
he might stay there. I do think last year he had 12 total touchdowns. I couldn't possibly project him to get 12 total touchdowns on this offense. I can't possibly project him to receive the same targets that he had with Tua with Malik. So it's not going to be as good as last year. It's not. But he is super talented, and he will get
He had
so
12
much
the
work.
year before as well.
Yeah. Well, they were a good
straight-
offense 2 years ago.
2 straight years. I just think the challenge for you is going to be like this team, how many total touchdowns do they score in the year?
Exactly.
Right, but if it's 30, try giving them to somebody else. That's the hard part in the projection thing is this offense, they paid him. I mean, he got the big check this offseason. They're going to be a weird team. They're just going to be a very, very weird team to see if we can find fantasy value. You can't look at an offense that's projected for 4.5 wins and not say there's not some risk with HN, even though he's been that good. But I do think he's in the same tier to me, talent-wise, as Gibbs, Bijan, those guys. And Greg Dulcich, for goodness sake.
I was going to bring it up.
Did you want to say something else on
We
HN?
mentioned Dalton Kincaid was at 2.73 yards per route run, hyper efficient. Part of that is the low snaps. Greg Dulcich on very low snaps as well, 2.38 yards per route run, and then they bring him back. He is
their best wide. He's their best receiver outside of HN.
Unless Chris Bell, Chris Bell was supposed to be a first round wide receiver who tore his knee, right?
And then just tore it right off.
just made Dan Campbell proud.
Whoa!
Chris,
that drop did not work very well the last time.
Was it last applied to Le'Veon?
I think so.
That was a long time
The bell
ago.
told for the player who.
I'm staring at some old drops here, guys. You know how many folders I had to go on for that? That's in
you
there.
had to go to the Le'Veon Bell folder.
That's in there with.
Carry on my wayward son.
Also,
Believe you've met my fitness consigliere, Michelle.
Sony Michel?
Michel.
there's some old. There's some old stuff. Some old stuff in there.
AJ Dillon. All right. Well, we got to get some new drops here.
I think Dulcich is a great sleeper pick. I do.
I agree.
You're going to be coming from behind in almost every game you play. They are the first 5 games of the year. Road game against the Raiders. Road game against the Niners. Kansas City, Minnesota, Cincinnati. LLLLL potential to start the year.
Well, it's like profile-wise, super athletic.
I was dressed up as him for Halloween.
He's a super athletic player that matters at the tight end position, and very strong chance he's the number one receiving option other than the running back. Odds are very, very against him, but these types of players, they pop up.
Yep. No, I think that he is one of the more interesting names on a team that seems mostly uninteresting.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Jets, 3-14 last year with a projected win total of 5.5.
Oh man,
3-5 in one-score games.
You guys remember the dance?
Yeah, by
Coach.
And then they lost the game.
And then they lost the game.
Oh man.
The vibes are better this year than they were last year. The Jets were tied or trailing in 93% of their snaps. They lost by 11.5 points a game. Their schedule looks much better, but the projected win total is the same, 5.5. Brutal division that nobody's won in how many? 17 years? Is that what I said? Other than the Patriots and Bills?
Yeah. The Jets haven't won in forever.
Is it? So the Jets have not been.
Their last playoff appearance was 2010, which that puts them. They're like the longest wait. The Falcons are 2017.
2010 is incredible.
That's 16 years.
That seems impossible.
And yet,
What?
Get it together, man.
They
Yeah.
didn't make the playoffs with Favre?
Well, the last appearance I think was Sanchez in 2015 or 2010, right? Sanchez was after Favre. We're old, right?
I guess so, man. Holy moly.
When did Brett Favre play?
The Jets' last win was Sanchez. Yeah, January 16th,
Yeah, Favre was
2011.
Oh, wow.
9-7.
Sanchez threw 3 touchdown passes to beat the Patriots 28-21. Crazy.
Oh, Mangini was the coach. You guys remember Eric Mangini?
It was Rex with Sanchez.
Yes,
though.
it was.
Yeah.
But man,
But I do remember Eric Mangini.
Yeah,
Well,
dude
there's-
was
what
a
a great
clown.
intro for this team.
he was great, and then he just took park carburetors and went to work as a mechanic, I assume. Just based on looks.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't see Mangini
He looked
slander
like-
coming up on today's episode.
He looked like a mechanic to
Hey.
you?
you can't pass
think
up your
so.
opportunity to dunk on Eric Mangini.
That's double A MCO. Offensive rank 29th in points per game, 29th in yards per game. Defensive rank 31st in points per game. Aaron Glenn did such a good job that he did the worst job possible.
and then
And added
he fell on his sword by cutting everyone else with his sword.
it was him, it was you, it was you, it was you.
He blamed
He
everyone.
said someone call an ambulance, but not
But
for
not
me.
for me. I mean, dude.
How about the 64-year-old?
Massacred his
He
coaches. He's like,
massacred
that's
them.
your fault. You suck. Get
You're
out of
fired.
The heads had to roll after last year, and it wasn't
Yes.
going to be his.
I can't believe he kept his job.
I can't believe this guy got another job. Frank Reich, 64 years old, the oldest OC in the NFL. The last 2 times we saw him at the NFL level, I thought the league had passed him by. But there are those out there that look at Reich and say, "Look, this is an NFL level offensive coordinator that should be able to put his players in the best position to succeed."
Do you know who
specifically
those people are, Andy?
Jets fans?
No.
Oh,
These are people who have had Garrett Wilson on their dynasty roster
yeah,
the whole time.
yeah.
And each and every year, we have to look at the idiotic moves that the Jets have made, and we have to convince ourselves
It's
that
better.
our superstar wide receiver will actually get a chance.
When 64-year-old Frank Reich last had opportunities, he had the lowest motion rate on dropbacks
Oh, that's
of
good.
any play caller. Because motion, that's not a big part of the game today, right? Mike, how does that make you feel?
Motion and play action.
Your eyes rolled into the back of your head.
Look, I'm not a NFL coach. I am not a college or high school coach. But I
you
know
pay attention to what the good coaches
But I know
do.
what yes,
Yeah.
I know what the good offenses do. They do a lot of play action because
Because you're always
we
more
got to
efficient.
establish the run. No, you don't.
You just have to fake it.
It just works, and so does motion. Like these things matter. You have to pay attention to what's
Who's-
going on in the NFL.
Kyle, give me the top. I'll give you a second, but give me the top 3 teams in motion rate. I'm just
Oh,
curious.
That will be fascinating.
Give me those numbers. I bet it won't take you long to find them. New additions: Kenyon Sadiq, 16th pick in the draft; Omar Cooper Jr., 30th pick in the draft. 2 offensive weapons.
2 first rounders.
This is how bad the Jets are. That a super athletic, exciting tight end, a first-round wide receiver off a national championship team, and we're like, meh. Nah, I've little to no interest.
I think that this offense is interesting. I am interested in the Jets offense. Now, I have little to no interest in those 2 specific rookies because of how they're going to be used in the offense as a whole. But this defense is not good. Geno Smith, it can at least accumulate stats. We don't mind interceptions, in fantasy football. Jameis was king of providing us a lot of passing yards. I do think with the weapons they have, with Breece Hall, with Garrett Wilson, the new additions of these 2 rookies, their offensive line is a little better. The offense should maybe not to the level that the Cardinals at the second half of last year as a terrible team, but just that could actually go and score. I see potential for the Jets offense this year in fantasy. Like I'm pretty in on Garrett Wilson.
Are you in on Brees?
And Breece, it depends on where he is in the draft. That really, I like Breece at a point, but I think he has limited upside.
310. Do you like him at 310?
Yeah.
RB15 off the board.
Yeah, the 3-4 turn. I think that's an appropriate spot.
Message for Frank Reich: the top 5 coaches, offensive coordinators in motion rate.
Since 2021.
Mike McDaniel,
Okay. Great
considered an
offenses.
offensive
Yeah.
genius. Ben Johnson,
Okay.
Yeah.
KOC,
Last year sucked, but
overall,
mostly
great
winning
offenses.
teams here.
Shane Steichen
Turned it around.
and Sean McVay.
I
don't want to do it. I don't want him to move. Put your feet in the concrete.
I'll tell you who would run zero motion. Kyle Borgononi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he's like, oh, it's what the good people do. I won't do it.
Oh, a contrarian take.
Yeah.
Just
Frank
firing,
Reich,
just firing shots at
handshake,
Kyle.
Kyle Borgononi. Right?
Well, I bring that up
He
because
is the Frank Reich of our company.
I bring that up because Meowson Taylor remains on the New York Jets. Very famous second-round pick, Mason Taylor, who we discussed at length, and I may have referred
Was
to
that
him.
nickname of the year? It had to be.
It had to have been.
Yeah.
Because I brought that up because I'm like, I watched Mason Taylor. I don't see any dog. This dude he catches and he falls down. That plays out over the course of an NFL season where he fails to force a single missed tackle. And he's a featured part of the offense.
He's not trying to.
I bring that
Obviously.
I bring this up because now Kyle's like, I'm rooting for Mason Taylor, and I'm like, what are you doing?
With Sadiq arriving?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just
It's
like
just
now
Kyle.
he's an underdog.
It's just Kyle.
The case for Breece Hall, look, more scoring opportunities would go a long way. It was fourth in explosive run rate on a bad team, 47th in touchdown rate. It's not too different than the can Achane survive in Miami to the can Breece Hall survive in New York. They're going to just be key cogs of the offense. Both got paid this offseason. Both teams committed to them as their main running back. So, look, I like my running backs to be on winning teams, but everybody's got a cost, a draft cost.
Featured.
Or a feature back that can catch the football, and Breece can do that.
Yeah, he can, but, I mean...
I'm not worried about Braylon Allen or Isaiah Davis.
I'm not worried about them as players. I am worried about their coach making stupid decisions and being
Which
like...
one? Their head coach or Reich?
Both, honestly. But, I mean, even last year, it didn't work out, or we didn't get to see exactly how it was going to shake out because Braylon Allen got hurt very quickly. But Glenn continually talked about, I want to use 3 running backs. I want to use 3. And he still has said that. So
yeah, but it's annoying.
I agree. And when you get into the game, we always say you can have your plan, but then eventually you got to get your best players out there. But it is a concern, but it's factored into the ADP of Breece.
Now, Sadiq, we've during the draft process, we were not as bullish on Sadiq, but he is not by any means a bad prospect. This is a really good prospect, super athlete.
I feel like I was very neutral. You were not a fan of his tape compared to like Stowers.
I was not a fan of his tape
and the production
compared to his projected and
because he was like a top 10 potential pick.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, you didn't think that belonged.
Correct, but I do think he is very talented. He's got a 95th percentile Felix score, so this is someone that needs to be remembered and looked at. If you want to take a shot in, I don't know where he's going in drafts right now, but this would be, let's say,
not drafted, basically.
Yeah, so then, your last round, if you want to take a swing on this. Gino obviously has thrown to tight ends. Frank Reich has had a lot of success with tight ends in some of his systems. They spent a lot of capital on him. So it's weird for me to be, saying don't forget about the rookie tight end. It's a little off-brand, but you should
be off.
You should be off-brand?
I'm going to jump in real quick. Mason Taylor did not win nickname of the year.
Oh,
okay.
This guy did.
Oh,
but Mason Taylor did take home a footy.
Oh yeah,
for a new category.
Oh, that's right.
The Meow Man of the Year.
So he took that home.
Yeah, he was the only one nominated, but he did take it home.
Here's what I will say.
He ran unopposed.
It's a small distraction, but in the vein of Sadiq, the rookie tight ends, the news right now out of Philadelphia is that Stowers is firmly third on the tight end depth chart.
Yeah, I didn't know Stowers is not on the radar.
It's one of the reasons why we've talked so much. Like, we know Devontae Smith's going to be heavily involved in that offense, but my goodness, Dallas Goedert is going to be involved in that offense.
Yeah,
it's not a name anybody wants to be excited about, but Stowers is not a part of the picture, and Goddard is always benefited when one of those wide receivers was out, and it's just worth throwing out there.
I love
We can
that.
talk about it again when we get to the NFC. But
Garrett Wilson, where are you with his ADP. Right now I'm seeing wide receiver 17 around there in the middle of the fourth.
Fine with
I
it.
adore it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty bullish. I have Garrett Wilson right now as my wide receiver 12, so he sneaks in
Okay.
at wide receiver 1. I believe that this offense and defense
Nothing
combination,
you could say could take
Oh, yeah.
me away.
the offense defense combination and the passing game upgrade over the quarterback of last year.
Nobody
Gino's-
likes Gino more than you this year.
Yeah, I mean,
You are so into Gino.
it's not that I think Gino is good.
Mhm.
It's that Gino is Jacoby Brissett. He
No,
is
I mean-
totally fine to throw.
That's what you're hoping for.
That's what I expect to just.
Okay, I'm just saying, like, Gino was not Jacoby Brissett when he played football last year.
Yeah, but
He
Gino
was
has supported
trash.
like he supported enough. Look at how he targeted Genty. Obviously, Brock Bowers when he was playing.
When Brock was playing, he was great.
Yeah,
It was
so
a very limited sample there.
But in the statement
But
that
the Jets
every,
believe in him, and I don't know if that's a good sign.
every single year you're like, oh, well, he's playing with the best quarterback that he's been able to play with.
For Garrett,
Yeah, guys like this that often comes up.
with
But
Justin Fields,
Gino is more capable for fantasy production than Justin Fields was.
yeah, because he's going to throw it more.
Yes, that's what I mean. And
Yeah,
Garrett
that's it.
Wilson to start last year it's lost to all of time. Garrett Wilson was awesome for fantasy football. There was tons of garbage.
Do you guys realize something special
I
about
realize
this
so many
team?
special things.
The New York Jets or the Tennessee Titans are starting the year 1-0
No,
because
they play each other.
They are facing each other in week 1. So the Titans or the Jets.
Where is it? Tennessee.
It's in
Yes,
Tennessee. So the Jets are underdogs against Tennessee. Then they go play Green Bay, or they play Green Bay at home. Then Detroit. Then Chicago. Then Cleveland. Then New England.
Oh, mercy!
So
They could
any
be 2-4.
How do you think Geno's?
They could be 0-6.
How many? I want to put this down on the board somewhere. 6 weeks into the year, I want the interception total with that gauntlet of a schedule for Geno Smith.
Okay.
And let's inform this a little bit because we didn't talk about him too much. Geno Smith, the newly minted quarterback of the New York Jets last year. He began the year with just for what did I say? The first 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
His first 6 weeks last year, if you put them out over the year, he would have been on pace for 28 picks and 51 sacks taken.
Nice.
Okay.
So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 interceptions in his first 6 last year. Give me the number.
I'm going to say 8 through his first 6.
I'll go under 10. I'll say 6.
Okay.
Give me 7. Give me 7 picks
All right.
for Geno Smith. There you
Is
go.
this
There's your
true?
Jets.
Is this?
What do you got?
I'm trying to look up the Jets' total passing yards as an offense last year, and I'm seeing 2,300. That can't be.
Well,
That can't
Jason,
be right.
Do you remember who led the New York Jets in receiving yards?
No.
Garrett Wilson.
Oh, but he didn't play the
He
whole
played
year.
7 games.
Oh my gosh.
395
Justin
yards.
Fields,
Can someone
Tyrod
vet that?
Taylor,
Did
Brady
they really
Cook.
throw for 2,385 yards?
2,385.
According to Pro Football
What?
Reference.
Yeah, Geno's an upgrade.
Yeah.
He is.
Gino
I mean,
can beat that.
He's an upgrade. That doesn't mean he's good.
No, exactly.
Yeah. But
he
And
can get to, like,
Geno's not
low
good.
3,000s.
Well, I mean, Gino
we've-
was on pace for 3,500 last
There
year.
you go.
Threw for 4,300 the year prior. If he gets 3,000,
Things are looking up, guys.
I mean, 2,300 for an NFL franchise. They get 17 games. That's not. That's insane.
Garrett Wilson. This will be fun. A way to close the show. You ready? Quarterbacks Garrett Wilson has caught a touchdown from.
Okay,
You ready for
this
this?
is exactly what
fun.
we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Tyrod Taylor.
Okay.
1
Pro
touchdown.
Bowler.
Tim Boyle. Mike White.
Oh,
Zach Wilson.
He was awesome with Mike White, actually.
By the way, this
top,
is
top 3 NFL draft pick.
Yeah, Zach Wilson threw 2 to him. Joe Flacco. Aaron Rodgers threw 6.
Yeah.
He played with Strevler. He played with Trevor Siemian. He played with Brady Cook.
Is he cursed?
What have they done? What have they done to my boy?
Just giving him a
Fat
lot
check.
to handle. All right, divisional predictions. I'm
I
going.
like this one. I know my.
I'm going Buffalo, New England, the Jets, and Miami.
That is exactly what mine is as well.
I will go Buffalo, New England, Miami, Jets.
Okay. There you go. We conquered the incredible AFC East and all those 4 juggernauts.
Just New York, get serious. Like, have a heart-to-heart with each
it's
other.
Their break from playoff appearances is 7 years to the next closest team.
I know there's management. I know there's people in suits, and these people in suits sit at a big table, probably with real fancy glass holding them in this room. Have a serious conversation. Get real.
The name, the Jets, there's not like jet exhaust pumped into those rooms that is throwing them off or anything, is there?
There's something going on.
They belong
Stop
in that,
cashing checks and win some games.
They belong in the special club with us, the Cardinals and the Browns. And working their way really hard to get into that group is the Falcons. Let me say that. Falcons are the second longest drought from a playoff.
Yeah, the difference is the Falcons usually get close to the playoffs most years. They're never, they're winning 7 games like all the time. The Jets, when they're bad, they're often, they're
winless type of season.
Yeah, they're just putrid.
If you had to bet your house on Aaron Glenn being the starting,
oh no, I would double up whatever. Whatever. Aaron Glenn being the coach in 2027 is an impossibility. It's impossible that he
even with all those numbers Geno puts up for him.
If Aaron Glenn is the coach in week 18, I will be blown away. That one I can see because maybe they just want to keep losing. I don't know.
Yeah, they're. I think they're with the Cardinals. They're going to be doing what they can. I'm saying not the players, not the coaches, but the up top. They're going to be trying to lose.
As a Cardinals fan, I just need the Jets and the Dolphins to go 1-1 against each other. It's very important.
We have our goals. AFC West on our next episode: Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs, and Raiders. And then on Thursday, we'll be tackling a mock draft episode before getting into the NFC divisional breakdowns. I mentioned the UDK, ultimatedraftkit.com, the live show, ballerslive.com for tickets on that. And the community, of course, the Foot Clan, the mighty, the strong, jointhefoot.com. You can check that out over there. If you sign up for Foot Clan Ultimate, you'll get everything we ever release always for free, part of the membership. So you can check that out, and we'll be back on Tuesday.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com. And follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.